What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Dustin and Tanya podcast.
We are so excited to have you here, and we've got some good stuff in store for you today. We are talking about one of the things that we've realized over time is a lot of times it's easy for us to want to be on all the time. And what that means is being our best every single day, showing up with, like, as a woman, makeup on, hair done, looking our best in clothes, men, however you see yourselves being. But there's always this thing about being on all the time. And we're here to just share with you that you don't have to be on all the time.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible, and I think social media has played a big part in that transition where there's this like idea or belief that everybody's perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. And that, well, I see their pictures on Instagram, or I see their stories, or I see the like every food that they eat and every outfit that they wear and every
so pretty and perfect.
Yeah, everything is perfect, and like ultimately that's not at all how it works. Ultimately it's impossible to keep up with that, and it's very draining and it's very hard to do. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. It's where a lot of people find themselves having issues with trying to not necessarily keep up with the Joneses, but keep up with this facade that everything has to be perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, ultimately, like, I don't know about you, but I didn't get like a "this is how everything works" book when I was born. Like, there's the Bible, right? And it tells you like how to live and do all those things. But at no point does it tell you like how to fill out a 1099 to be a business or a subcontractor. It doesn't tell me how to do, like, there's all these things in life that you ultimately don't know how to do. Well, if you don't know how to do something, I don't know how you're supposed to be perfect at it.
Right.
Because it's impossible, right? So basically life is literally just a bunch of things that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we try to figure them out along the way. Mm-hmm. And somehow, some way, we have come to this culture of believing that we're supposed to be perfect while we do it.
Yeah, and I think too, like, we're in this culture of believing that somebody has all the answers. And so we look to other people who we think have all of the answers because their life looks perfect. But everybody is in this life just trying to figure things out as they go. There's people who are experiencing things and know things that work for them. But in reality, like, we're all just trying to figure things out. And it's easy to get caught up in like thinking that somebody has all the answers because their life looks so perfect and the things that they are is perfect.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I personally have struggled with, like, I'm just a vulnerable person. Like, I've thought that other people had my answers.
Yeah.
Not the answer.
Right.
Because nobody has the answer.
Right.
But I thought people could give me my answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just what you need to do for
Mm-hmm.
you.
Right.
Right? But ultimately, through time, through investments, through challenges and choices and trial and error, I've realized, how in the heck can I expect someone else, even if I pay them, even if they're very good at what they do, how can I expect them to have the answer that I'm looking for? Because ultimately the answer I'm looking for is somewhere inside of here.
Yeah.
Like it says in the Bible, like, God's already given us everything that we already need. So that means it's already inside of me. I already know what it is that I need, right? So how can someone else tell me what that is? Basically, what coaching is a mirror. Like, they can reflect the things that you need. They can help you come to conclusions. They can help you get to where you're going.
Yeah.
But they don't have my answer. They got the answer that worked for them. And that's what you said. Like,
yeah.
They have their answer.
Yes.
And their answer is very appealing. It's very good. It's very cool. And it's hip and it looks good. But so many people get caught up in the like, well, that worked for him, so I'm going to copy that identically. And identically copying someone else's stuff that worked for them will only lead farther down the, well, I don't feel perfect mode, because their life looks perfect and they used it to build their life. Well, now I'm going to steal it and I'm going to attempt to do what they do, only for me, and I'm gonna try to do my best at being perfect at it too. Rule number one is the first person isn't perfect,
Right.
And the second person's only going to be like 50% of the first person's perfect, but that was for them.
Right.
It wasn't for you. So there's no way that for you is ever going to freaking work out without a ton of heartache, a ton of struggle. Because ultimately, like, there's that book, I don't remember who wrote it, but it's called Steal Like an Artist. Yeah. And stealing like an artist is a very, very positive thing. It's a very important thing, and you can absolutely steal like an artist.
Yeah, I mean, like you hear all the time, people say don't reinvent the wheel, which makes sense. But to an extent, what you're saying is that, like, even though it's saying steal like an artist, it's saying take their idea, don't copy it completely, but make it your own. Get the idea, make it your own.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. Like, social media, like, one person makes a post and 2 days later you'll see the exact post, the exact post, the exact post, the exact post, the exact, and it's like, whoa, you missed the part of, like, stealing like an artist. But not to get off track here, like, and the reason that I believe people dive into those situations, or the reason I believe people kind of get into that copying mode, is the idea or belief that if they do that, then they'll be perfect, or then it'll work, or then it'll be the, like, oh crap, did you see they got their stuff together and they got it going on just like my man over there does. And unfortunately, like, it gets watered down the farther it goes down the line.
Yeah.
So if this person's the first one to do it, and then there's 6 people after that, man, by the time it gets to the 6th person, it's watered down and nobody even cares anymore.
Yeah.
Like, real talk. And unfortunately, like, for us as a society, we have found things like Instagram, and we have found things like business coaches and fitness model. Like, to be a fitness model now, you literally have to have 1% body fat, zero clothing. Every TikTok video is literally just short of a pornography.
Yeah.
Soft porn. And that's okay. Like, that's what's working. Right. But if that's not who you are, and then you all of a sudden jump into that, it feels dirty, and it feels clustery, and it feels dirty, nasty, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't even want to do that.
Right.
But you're so stuck in, like, well, that's what's working for everybody else, that it just doesn't work out for you.
Yeah, and I just want to speak from my own experience of, what over time, like, when I first started, like, sharing my life and stuff, I just did me, realistically. And then, somewhere along the way, I got caught up in the, like, if I want to be an influencer of some kind or help people in some way and get more followers or whatever, like, you have to do things the way everybody else is doing them. I've even joined programs where it's like, well, if you need to do reels and you need to do this and and it's like, whoa, that's like, I try it and I do it for like maybe 2 weeks and it just feels so forced. And it's because I'm getting further away from my authentic self and trying to be in this perfect scenario, perfect model of it, that I actually end up getting further away from actually doing what I want to do, because it's this, like, you have to be on all the time, you have to be making these videos, and you have to be doing all the things and what's trending and what's not trending. If you're not doing what's trending, it's not it's not going to work for you. And it's just, it feels dirty and forced and like, oh my gosh, like, this is not anything of what I am. And for me personally, trying to be that person that's on all the time, it makes me a little bit dead inside, to be honest. And so, like, I've found, like, I just have to be me, and I know that sounds so dumb, like, well, why aren't you just you? Well, it's easy to get caught up in the things of what's going on when you deal with social media, when you're trying to do business online, when you're doing all these things. It's easy to get removed further away from who you are because you're trying to be successful and you're trying to get to the point where you're doing all the right things and doing what people are telling you to do. You forget to do what it is you want to do. And so for me, like, I'm glad that you brought this up about, getting to the point where you don't have to be on all the time, because that's you being your authentic self, to show up some days and as a woman not have makeup on because you want to be just you at your bare self, right? And that's okay. You don't have to always have your hair done, your makeup done to show up on social media, to put your best foot forward. It's okay to be authentic and be like, I'm having a shitty freaking day. I'm a hot mess express right now, and I am okay with it. Like, it's okay to be you and to not be on all the time. That's not what's going to make you or break you.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a one day thing. Like, oh, did you see that they didn't do whatever last week? They're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read social media,
Mm-hmm.
there's all kind every day. I literally have 100 of them every day. If you aren't blah, 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 you will never blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like if you aren't posting 7 times a day at 7:58, 8:52, 4:51, 3:59, 11:47 and making 4 reels, then you'll never be an influencer. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Most of the influencers I follow are actually like non-blue check mark, but have a different type of following that like they might post every 4th day. They might keep up with their stories. They might post 5 times a year. But I follow those people because they're outside of the quote unquote norm of things. Like, but they have real good value that they add to society. And honestly, like if you get to a point where you're posting 7 times a day, your value is damn near 0 because you're so concerned with, well, I have to make another post, that your post is just another like, well, if you're not hustling, then you're grinding.
It's a good day to have a good day.
Yeah, and it is a good day to have a good day.
It is, yes.
But if that's all that you're adding value to the social platform, society, then it gets watered down, right? So for me, like especially with social media, I'm the same way. Like I've always believed like, man, we gotta be on, we gotta have our A game, we gotta whatever. And it's like I literally have a computer with a speaker holding up or a cooler holding up my computer and speaker right now to do this podcast in the corner of our kitchen of our apartment building.
Our makeshift
And I, like honestly, like most people won't start a podcast because they don't have the beams with the speaker and the headphones and the whole deal. And I honestly, like, trust me, I love stuff like cool little gadgets and things like that. That's all my game. But unfortunately, somebody won't share their story. Somebody won't put out their voice and be heard because they don't have $10,000 worth of podcast equipment.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I'm gonna tell you, we're the ones that upload it. She does it to YouTube. I do it to Anchor. We put them up, and they're probably not the greatest quality. They're probably not. But ideally, a podcast is about the content. It's not about the beam and how perfect it is. And that's where I wanted to talk today. Is like that always being on. That everything has to be perfect. If you don't have this or that, then don't do it at all. And it's like no, like I'm here to tell you that I literally wrote a book in 48 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't have a software. I didn't have a hardware. I didn't have an editor. I didn't have a program. I didn't have anything. I literally sat down in Google Docs.
I remember that.
And typed almost 200 pages on Google Docs. My editor, by the time I got it to her, she said, yeah, just send your Microsoft Word stuff over to me. And I said, oh, honey, it's in Google Docs. And she's like, well, you're going to have to buy Word and you're going to have to put it in there because that's a really good format. And then it carries over to Amazon so that we can publish it and all that. And I was like, oh, cool. But I started with a computer in Google Docs.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get so caught up, and I'm guilty of this, having to have everything figured out before going, instead of just starting and figuring it out along the way. And that's a lesson that I've learned over the time of us starting things and, working through them like,
And I think that's the biggest thing with perfectionism.
Yeah.
Is usually what happens with the belief of needing to be perfect is it ends up not getting done.
Mm-hmm.
So unperfect or imperfect action, day after day, consistently, will take you way farther than perfect once a week.
Yeah. I want to go back to when we first started traveling. I came up with Road Trip and Venture as our travel Instagram, share for family and friends. They could keep track of where we're going, what we're doing. Started a YouTube channel, and it was this like thinking so far into, oh my gosh, we need to have business cards. We need to have all of these things, and we weren't even like really known, right? And so it was like this, like, well, we need to have business cards that we can hand out, like who does business cards anymore, really? And we need to have stickers, and we need to have all of this stuff because we're just this cool freaking couple that's traveling the country, and we need to have all of these things before we even establish like who we really were and what we were doing. So it's kind of that with anything, like you think of business or whatever. Well, if we're starting a business, well, we need to have a merchandise and stuff to hand out, an LLC, and all of these things that you try to figure out all of the stupid stuff that comes later instead of just like starting and just doing, and then the rest of it comes afterwards. And I did everything so backwards. And
yeah, every time. We started several businesses and it was like, we had a name and a website domain and an Instagram handle and all this stuff, and then like we never even made the products, or we never even did the thing, because by the time you got to that, it was like, oh, I don't know if we really want to do that or whatever. Like, but the imperfect action got us to where we needed to go so that we could go from there and take it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And that little teeny road trip adventure with some business cards, maybe a little bit ahead of time, got us to a YouTube channel that was paying us monthly for what we did with over 200 some videos.
Right.
And so it's like that imperfect action. If we would have waited until everything was perfect, we never would have did anything.
Exactly.
If we would wait to share our story until the divorce is over, or the bankruptcy's like washed off of our thing, or the credit report is cleared up, or my baby mama loves me again, or I have the job, or the name, or the blue check mark, you'll never have any of it.
Right.
Nobody will ever understand your story. Like for me, I've literally since day one, 2018, I started sharing my story on December 7th, 2018. And from that day, I have literally just started sharing it.
You did.
Everything from freaking abortions to debt, depression, suicide, anxiety, all of the craziness. But on top of that, traveling the country, getting to know my wife better, doing all these things. So like I've shared it since day one. And so when people say, how did you write your book in 48 hours? Shit, I've been writing my book for 4 years.
That's right.
I just all of a sudden needed to put it in a timeline and share it all in one shot. So it took me 48 hours. Well, that doesn't work for me. And the reason it doesn't work is because you're so worried about your book being perfect that you have you don't even take action. Because it's like, well, I don't even know what I want to say. Well, what's your story? Well, I have all these things, and it's like, cool, but do you know what they are? Do you know? Because like, ultimately, the more you share your story, the more you tell your timeline, the more you talk about who you are, what you've done, what you've experienced, where you've been, where you've gone, all these things, you start to realize like what the actual story is, right? Because otherwise it's just a bunch of blips. Like one time I fell off my bike. Was that the end of the story? Like, is that what you're gonna write in your book? Like, well, one time we got ice cream after school, and one time I fell off my bike. That was my childhood. Like, okay, there was like nothing else. You didn't like get a ribbon or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so until you, are we gonna have a guest episode?
Oh, are we gonna have a guest? Shady mama.
But like until you share, until you talk, until you understand like what your actual story is.
Right.
And I know it seems crazy because it's your story, but until you talk about it, until you share it, until it comes out of you, it never comes out. Like you go back to 2018 and read my post, you're like, holy shit, this guy's just like rattling stuff off, in which I was. And as you share it, and as you refine it, and as you fine tune it to like not be spray paint on the wall, and all of a sudden you got like a brush in your hand, and it's like we're making fine lines with it. Now all of a sudden I'm an author. Now all of a sudden I'm an artist with words. My editor calls me a wordsmith. Like she said, you just flow words. I literally got a message the other day from my I have Grammarly, and it said you used more unique words than 60% of everybody else on Grammarly. And I'm like, that's me. I'm unique. Like when I talk like that, and that's 100% true. But I got there, and I got to Grammarly, and I got to where I've literally have like, I don't know, 500,000 words on Grammarly because of the continued imperfect action over and over consistently that ultimately ended up in a book. But the book wasn't titled, I Am Perfect.
Right.
It's titled, Strength Through Struggle. And I struggled sharing and being imperfect to come up with the book in the long term. What do you got on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we don't start things because we're too worried about being perfect. And I just speak that from experience. And everybody's life is messy. Everything is messy, and it's going to be messy. And if we're always worried about being so perfect and doing everything in life, we're going to be finding ourselves so far removed from who we are, and so far removed from happiness and joy and doing the things that we truly want to do in our heart, because we let that hold ourselves back from being perfect. And I'm a perfectionist.
Me too.
And that has ruined some things for me because I've tried to be so perfect at things before. I let my perfectionism, get the best of me. And I have to learn to like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be me. It's okay to be whatever it is. And it's okay to just start things and not have it figured out. Start things and have the unknown and have no idea where it's gonna go, how it's gonna play out, but take those risks. Take the chance to do something a little bit messy and see what it turns into. And maybe in the end you can create something beautiful with that mess that you never expected would be possible, because you didn't hold yourself back from trying to be so perfect at it, and you let yourself just flourish and create something absolutely amazing.
That was fire. And that, like, you're so true. Like, I don't know is a really freaking good answer. A couple months ago, I had someone reach out to me and basically said, like, my marriage is failing. And I said, cool, like, what does that mean to you? And they were like, well, one of us is Christian, the other one's not. And they were like, had all these things that they were running through their minds that they assumed was the answer to the problem. And I said, cool, how long have you guys been married? And he was like, oh, we've been married 3 months. And I was like, look, I've only got one piece of advice for you. And that is spend the rest of your life figuring out how you two are gonna remain married and growing your relationship and building upon it. Because you thought, like, honestly, if you've been married 3 months and it's already beat up, you were beat up before you even got started.
Absolutely.
You thought getting married was going to be the fix. And then since it didn't fix it, you immediately started to find things that were imperfect about the other person, about yourself, and how there was no way this is ever going to work out, right? Unfortunately, that's life. And it's imperfect as shit.
And that's so true with marriage. I mean, any marriage, realistically, you get into it and you think it's all sunshine and rainbows, and this person that I love so much, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with them and it's going to be great. And then you start to really get to know the person, and you start to find the things that are imperfect about each other.
She's never found any about me, just to be clear.
And then you have to learn to, so a lot of times, and I know this is kind of a little off topic, but I just have to say it. A lot of times we think that when we marry somebody, we marry them because we love them. But the truth is, in my opinion, you don't even really know what love is. You're just in lust with that person. You have a strong connection with that person, but you start to learn what love really is when you start to build that marriage from the day that you take your vows. And you start to learn how to work together as a team, and you start to then figure out and learn what love really is, because love is messy, love is stubborn, love is hard. And when you can take that time to invest into that person that you decided to commit to spend the rest of your life with, and you make that commitment, you honor that commitment, and you stick with it, you go through the mess, you go through the stubbornness, you go through the hard times, you go through all of it. And that's where you find what true love really is.
And that's where you find that perfect is exactly imperfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, at no point, and we've said this before, like, at no point, if you would have told me 13 years ago that it was going to be suicidal, depressive, and whatever, like, and you named off all this shit, that I would have been like, yeah, put my name down.
Sign me up for
that sounds amazing.
That's exactly what I want.
But unfortunately, it was 13 years of imperfect action that got us to where we are today. And we fought through the fights. We've gone through the battles, and you find true love in the shit.
Yeah.
It's not at the freaking amusement park.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find true love at the amusement park. You find true love in the demolition derby. Right?
Isn't that the truth?
You find true love in the demolition derby.
When you
Right.
want to throw in the frickin'
Yeah,
towel.
think about it. Like Tom Brady, they win a Super Bowl. Every single person in the freaking locker room's all jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
But game one, the following year, when they lose by 37, ain't nobody shaking champagne. And now we're gonna find out what love is. Because now we gotta go back to the drawing board. We just got our asses kicked. Now what are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Draw it up on the board. You fumbled here. You messed up there. You didn't catch that ball. Obviously, you can put this into terms of being married. You didn't do this. You didn't pay that bill. You didn't take the kids. You didn't walk the dog. I did all that. Cool. Well, now what did you do? And she's going to say, well, I did all this and I did all that. And now you're in the middle of a demolition derby.
Oh, yeah. And
And
you're
that's-
starting to see the divide.
Yeah. But that's imperfect.
Yeah.
And because you didn't get an owner's manual,
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't know what it meant to say, I do forever.
Mm-hmm.
You get to go through the world, life of unexpected, imperfect, and try to do everything you can to weave it together with stitches and glue and staples and a couple welds
Good thing you're a good welder.
and hope that it sticks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's imperfect
It is.
and it's messy.
It's very
And I believe that on, like, literally yesterday, I had a day. I had me a day.
We both did.
And I honestly, like, that was where this came from. I woke up this morning and I knew I needed to share it with people. But ultimately, I didn't even work out yesterday, which is not known for me.
Yeah.
Like, I literally was like, no, I'm not working out. And I'm dealing with some things. I'm going through some stuff. And it got the best of me yesterday. And I sat in it. And I don't mean like wallowed in it. I sat in it like trying to find what do I need to learn from this? What can I do right now with what I have and where I'm at to try to get where tomorrow's fucking better than today?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that was what I literally spent, and I woke up this morning and it was still heavy on me. So I went for a walk and that helped a little bit. I went to the gym and I literally said 10 words to 5 people and I kept my head down. I might as well just had headphones on because I was doing me today. And it was like, when I got done with the gym, I had burnt enough off that it was like, okay, I'm okay. Everything is all right. Everything's going to be okay. And everything's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
I am not perfect. There was one person who was put here who was perfect, and his name was Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm not Jesus, and it is not my responsibility to be perfect.
Right.
It is my responsibility to do my best with what I have, where I'm at every day. And some days that is legitimately me with a hood over my head. And Tanya knows, like, that is I'm in my space.
Yeah.
That's like, I just want to be alone. I just want to be by myself. I just want to, do my thing. And I believe all of us have it. It's just a different version, But for me, I'm like hood up, hang out, do my own thing, and do all that. And I believe that you have got to have them days. If you feel like, even on them days, that you have to have it together, you need to let go.
Yes.
You need to let go.
Yes, you do.
Because it's not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that people have to drink to unwind and have to smoke to get through stuff, and it's alcohol and drugs and pills and all these things all day long just to function. And it's because we've bought into this societal norm of everything's supposed to be perfect. And it's not.
No.
At no point were we supposed to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so ideally, like, that's what I wanted to share today. I wanted to get down to the real stuff of perfection is the robber of great. Like, the idea that anything can be perfect. Like, you want to do your freaking best, but if you stop doing something or don't do something or imagine that something is supposed to be perfect, every single freaking time you will be disappointed. It will not work out and it will not get done.
Yeah, it'll crush you.
Yeah, it will too. Like, it is defeating, it is exhausting, it is as miserable as it can get because you have this weird, like, listen, I've probably hung out with more social media influencers on a personal level than the average person. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else. I've just been in the room with most of these people.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is those people are just as messy as you people. And I know that because us people have been with them people and we've been with you people. And what I'm saying is people, no matter what is in front of their name, doctor, lawyer, president, whatever, and what's behind their name, blue check mark, cross, X, whatever, they're all people. And if people are involved, it's gonna be a little bit messy. And that is okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with that, I think that's a good spot to end. So yeah, try to just be you and be okay with not being perfect, honestly. And I really like what you said about it's okay to have a day to just let go and just do what you need to do. I slept yesterday. I laid in bed, I was going through some of the same crap, and you know, like there's the part in my mind that's like, oh, I need to do this and I need to do something and and it's like, no, like just stop, like that stuff's gonna be there. But if you don't take care of your mental state, if you don't take care of being off for a day, you're just going to continue to run yourself down to where you're starting to use things to cope and get down into that path. So if you get into a space and you need it, let go, give yourself a day, and don't be so on all the time. So if there's anything you took from this message, let it be that it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be perfect or not perfect. Be your beautiful self. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this message. If there's anything more you got from it, please let us know in the comments. We would like to hear your response, and we'll link everything below. With that,
appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. And thanks for knowing that we're not perfect. Much love, y'all.
Bye.